Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here, back with one more last episode on the SAIO application. Today's episode is about optimization of the SAIO app, and I think it functions kind of like a appendix of sorts. So let's just launch the app right now. So yeah, I would say the first 10 episodes was really on using SAIO and its different functions, and this one is just more about kind of optimization of the settings. So yeah, feel free to kind of skip this one if it's not for you. So over here you have the game option, archive, and then options. So let's take a look at the options right here. Just want to go over a little bit more in detail. So over here at the first toggle button right at the top, you can see the description is below the toggle button. So game minutes 1, and of course if you extend it all the way to the right, you would actually have the maximum time limit that you can actually ask SAIO to kind of think, which is 30 minutes. So yeah, that's the game time, and usually the longer the game time, the higher the accuracy, and of course the depth. Even though SAIO is quite efficient, it doesn't really need that long, so usually you can just keep it to 1 or 2 minutes. Depth, you can actually set it to maximum of 30, which means that it will look 30 moves ahead. And end game solve, you can go all the way to 40 moves empty, but typically we have it about 27 empties to be optimal. You don't have to kind of push it all the way. It's just to make it faster overall and improve your user experience. And over here, the library max move. If you just scroll to the left, it's no limit, and if you have the full library, it would be able to access that and tell you, the best move, or they would actually play the best move if you're playing against the computer AI. So full game variant max. So this one, if you want a total variant of maximum of AI to kind of lose 30 disks, yeah, so you can actually set it to minus 30 so that you're not playing like a complete perfect computer. And I think most humans are not able to kind of play to the maximum. So I think if you want to say, minus 30 would mean that, the game could be as bad as minus 30. And of course, you can stretch it all the way to minus 60 depending on how you want them, how easy you want the player to be. So of course, if you wanted a top player, maybe you just leave it at minus 6 maximum. If you really want a perfect AI, you can just put it as only best move. So over here, you have the average error, S1, S2, S3, which represents the first and the second and the third segment of each game. So you can think of it as 30 moves for the AI, and of course it's the kind of standard error that you would see in its moves, for each segment. So the first 10 moves, the next 10 moves, and then the final 10 moves in the end game. So let's say if you wanted to kind of simulate a player, it's similar to simulate player, just that simulate player function has distinct openings from the player's game style. But for this, it's just kind of like a random error. And of course, if you wanted somebody who is very bad at openings but very good at mid games, and then almost perfect for end game, you would probably set it something like this, with a high error in the opening, lower error in the mid game, and almost perfect in no error, 0.00 in the end game. And of course, the reverse is true. If you want somebody who is super strong in opening, maybe average in mid game, and then even worse in end game, which I think most kind of novice players would tend to trend towards to, then I think this is something that you can set a setting to kind of play against. And of course, over here there are minor options like show number of discs on each side. If you want to practice counting, you probably shouldn't show, so you will leave it off. And then you can show search evaluation. So if you show it in the game, they would actually tell you what's the evaluation like. So not that great if you want to kind of practice. So if you just kind of switch it off and go back to game, you would see that that settings would be off, and they wouldn't be able to tell you which one. And then of course, there would be show next move, last moves, evaluation after pasting lines. If you didn't want that to kind of do an automatic evaluation, you would just switch it off. Always same first move? Nope, not all the time. So there is some variation. And of course, if we go to show advanced options, we can take a look at even more options. So over here, threads used, 6. And of course, if you have more cores, you can actually stretch it a little bit more, all the way up to 24. So yeah, that's for the threads, which usually corresponds to the number of cores that you have in your device. the higher the specs for your device, the more capable it is to kind of maximize the potential of SAIO's evaluation speed. If not, I think you're actually fine. If you have the full library, you can just let it run a little bit. It's fine. And continue to expand your library as you explore the lines. Hash table bits used, 21. I think this is kind of like a default, and you can also choose to kind of see whether you want to increase that. But usually the default, we leave it as kind of like 21. It's not consuming that much. As you can see, the higher you go, it's almost like a multiply by 2 each time. So you probably don't want to kind of tweak it too high unless your device is super strong in specs. Evaluate best get. So this one, it really depends on how you want to kind of evaluate the best move. So it depends on, and then there's also the show library depth, minimum 10, how many depth there is to that. So that's the alternate settings. So you'll be able to see in the alternate set of library settings, you'll be able to see the different values over there. And over here, there are all the kind of mini variations on libraries. It's just on and off toggle buttons just to see whether the settings are there for you. And of course, you have the regression analysis settings at 1 MT, at 6 MTs, and then percentage 1 to 5, followed by the depth. And then expand endgame over here. So over here, if you kind of branch out beyond the library and you want to kind of grow your own local library in terms of settings, you would actually solve it at a depth of a higher level, perhaps, if it's out of the library book. So if you think that the lines that you're studying are super varied, like maybe a -8 or some unknown -10 openings, you probably stretch the settings a little higher, just to expand your own library. But if you're playing within the kind of typical openings, then you probably don't need this to be that high. So yeah, over here, it's again the time for the expansion of the library and the depth as well. So similar to the previous option settings. And then over here, again, it's all the kind of on and off buttons that is not as critical to most of the core functions that we've covered in the first 10 episodes. So yeah, that's basically settings for SAIO application. And thank you very much for watching this video and also this series. I hope you like this entire series. If you haven't seen the rest of the series, do check it out in the first 10 episodes just to see, SAIO app. And yeah, definitely go and download it if you find this app, extremely advanced and useful. And at the same time, hopefully it helps your game. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next series. Goodbye.